Hello and welcome to week 13 of English 1301 online. We are currently in module 4 working on our argument essay. All right, so this week we have one assignment. Take a look at the calendar. This week we will be looking at chapter 48, questions and comments. And this chapter has to do with finding sources, since the argument essay that we are writing is technically an argument essay with some research. So remember, you have to have at least one academic researched source, and then after that, you can have as many popular media sources as you want. In other words, anything that is not technically academic. An academic is a book, a journal article, or an online article or an online book, or an ebook, but an online article from an ED or something from Google Scholar. And then popular media sources are things like magazines, newspapers, news channels, popular media websites, things that aren't necessarily academic in nature. If you have a question as to whether or not something is academic or a popular media source, just give me an email and I'll be happy to sort that out or help you sort that out. But remember, you have to have at least one academic source. You have to use one of the articles that we wrote summaries on last week, and then you can have as many popular media sources as you want. But for this week, we are focusing on chapter 48, questions and comments, which is going to help you with trying to find good resources. All right. So that being said, I also opened up another assignment. It's one of our last assignments that we're going to have. I went ahead and opened it up a week early because I felt like if I gave you guys a couple weeks to work on it, it would be better. This is going to be our group teamwork assignment. And it's going to be over logical fallacies. And there's a lot of information on this. First, let me show you where to find the information about logical fallacies. It should be right here in our main screen on Blackboard under the Logical Fallacies to Explore folder. And this is a video that's going to talk about, what a logical fallacy is. I can make it go back. And then there's another video about logical fallacies and arguments. It's a great resource for recognizing and avoiding logical fallacies. So what a logical fallacy is, quickly as a summary, it is something that sounds like it should make sense because it sounds logical, but it is still false. That is the fallacy part of it. So it's when we argue things that sound logical but are false. And there's many different types of logical fallacies. There are a few that are fairly common, like the hasty generalization, which is one you may have heard, where somebody says, everybody knows that high school students all love chocolate. Now, that doesn't sound like it would necessarily be an incorrect statement. But there are people in the world who would argue that they didn't know that all high school students love chocolate. And to wit, not all high school students love chocolate. So it's a logical fallacy to say all high school students love chocolate. And it's another logical fallacy to say everybody knows that all high school students love chocolate. A more correct way of saying that would be many people know that most high school students love chocolate, or a majority of people know that many high school students love chocolate, or a lot of people know. Using all of those different ways qualifies the statement and actually makes it not a logical fallacy. So there's many other examples of logical fallacies. Again, let me take a real quick peek at this. Yeah, actually, it's not. I thought it was a video. So it's actually an article about what is a logical fallacy and then 10 examples of it. And there are some videos on here, and I'm sure you can probably find videos on the internet about what is a logical fallacy. But this is some good stuff to start with. And then another link here to logical fallacies and arguments from the Writing Center at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. This is a little bit more technical, but still some good information. So this will give you hasty generalization, missing the point, post hoc, also called false cause, from the Latin phrase post hoc ergo propter hoc, right there. Slippery slope. I'm sure you've heard of slippery slope before. Weak analogy, appeal to authority, ad populum, ad hominem. This is one of the more, I guess not popular, but more widely used logical fallacy in an argument or debate. When you're arguing with someone and you're trying to argue the point, right? If they no longer can argue the point, if they can no longer attack the point, let's say you are arguing for or against something and you reach a point in the argument where the person on the other side of the argument can no longer uh, tear down your argument or debate your argument, then they will stop attacking your argument and they might start attacking you. So instead of saying your argument is dumb, or there's something wrong with your argument, or whatever it is wrong with your argument, they might turn around and say, your argument is dumb and it's dumb because you're a dumb person. That is what we call an ad hominem attack. It means to attack the human or the person or the man in this case. It's Latin. Hominem is Latin for man. So it's attack the man and it's not attacking the actual topic. Um, it's it's one of those things that we kind of use as humans. It's kind of sounds kind of mean and mean spirited, and sometimes it is, but it's like an argument of last resort. Oh, well, they're wrong because they're dumb and they're always wrong. That's an ad hominem attack. Um, and then there's appeal to pity, appeal to ignorance, the straw man argument, the red herring. This is where both of these are where somebody throws up something to argue that is not doesn't really have much to do with the topic, so that it can be easily that particular part of the argument can be easily won, and then they try to say that they've won the entire argument just because they tried to argue something that was vaguely related. That's a red herring. Straw man is kind of the same way. Anyways, it goes on the entire list of analogies now, or no, I'm sorry, logical fallacies. So why is it important to recognize logical fallacies? It's important to recognize logical fallacies in other people's writing so that you can tell when you're being led astray, when somebody is leading you to believe something that they want you to believe and they don't want you to question it. They will often use logical fallacies, and we kind of, when we're just reading, we don't really realize it, and we kind of go along with it because it sounds right. But if you're able to recognize something as a logical fallacy, you can say, hey, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense because of whatever reason that it is a logical fallacy. So there's these two links. This link is actually kind of nice as well, or not. It's a graphic. Apparently, I can't get to it right now. I'm not sure what that's about, but it's a graphic that shows all the different logical fallacies and arguments. And if you can't get to it, please let me know, and I'll see if I can find it. This one, the thou shalt not commit logical fallacies. It will have them all in a graphic format. And then this should be a clickable list, yes, of different logical fallacies that you can take a look at. And these are the different names of them. Sunken cost. Sunk cost fallacy is when you are playing the slot machine or something like that, and you keep adding money because you know that it's going to hit any second now. The next pull it's going to hit. The idea that you've already spent $50 on this slot machine, that it should hit at any given moment. It's right, the right time it should hit. That's a fallacy because they're randomized machines. Or it's the idea that you don't abandon something because you've already spent so much time and effort into it that it has to work. That's the sunk cost fallacy. There's a lot of different ones. Appeals to emotion, appeals to authority, appeals to nature, begging the question, circular reasoning. These are all different types of logical fallacies. And if you click on one, let's take a look at circular reasoning, for example. This will take you to an example of what it is, and then an extended explanation, as well as how to recognize it. So, circular reasoning is when a person assumes the truth of what they are trying to prove using the conclusion as a premise in their own argument. An example here is whatever is less dense than water will float because such objects won't sink in water. That makes sense in some weird way, but it's not exactly right. Our freedom of speech is important because people should be able to speak freely. I mean, that doesn't really tell us why freedom of speech is important, and it just circles back to here. So, again, these are all the different types. There are many, many, many. I would not expect all of y'all to know them all, but you should go through and familiarize yourself with some of them as they're going to be part of the teamwork assignment. So, all of these resources here, we're looking at logical fallacies, plus whatever you can find on the internet yourself. So let's talk about the teamwork assignment, and it is right here. Now, you may have noticed that you've already been put into a team. This was random by the computer, so I apologize if you're not in a team with people that you know, but more than likely, or if you are in a team with people that you know and it's not okay, I apologize. But it was all done randomly. Now, there will be people in your group who probably will not respond. Again, I can't force everybody to respond to the assignment, but I can give you guys as much leeway as possible. So what I've done is the groups have all been assigned right here, and you should be able to see that. You should be able to see what group you're in, and it'll have your name and then the group name here. And when we go back to the assignment, now that I have to pull it all back up again, what you see on your main page is a logical fallacies group discussion board. And when you click on that, you're going to see your group's discussion board. Now, see, I can see everyone's discussion board, but you should only be able to see your group. So if you're in group 1, you'll see group 1. If you're in group 4, you'll see group 4. So this is where you're going to be able to communicate with the other members of your group. And I want to say that if I click on a group, it'll bring up the other members of the group. So that should help you with trying to have a discussion with your group. You can post here just like you would on a normal discussion board. And just know that I can see the discussion here. I try to stay out of it. If you have specific questions, have someone email me so I can come maybe join the discussion or answer you via email. But this group discussion board is here for your group to use to share files between each other or to just have discussions. Let's take a look at the instructions. I have the instructions separate because if you try to look at the submission link, It will not allow